My older sister demanded I sign over family funds after my husband died. Then the recordings exposed everything. My older sister tested my loyalty with a hidden account drained for her affair until the anonymous tip hit. My older sister and mother broke our family pact with concealed transfers until reputation damage took over. My older sister thought I was too patient to fight back until the last document flipped the whole story. My older sister pushed the ultimate loyalty test with drained funds until truth over toxic ties won. Hi, my name is Lauren Hayes. I am 31 years old. Those words from my older sister landed in the quiet of my living room like stones dropped into still water. I didn't flinch. I simply looked at her across the glass coffee table, the late afternoon light from the hillside villa windows cutting sharp lines across her face. She had shown up unannounced an hour earlier, claiming it was just a casual visit to check on me after my husband passed. Now the papers were spread out between us, and the air felt thick with the kind of tension that had been building for months. I had suspected something was off for weeks. Small withdrawals from the joint family investment account we had set up after my husband died 2 years ago. The account was supposed to be a safety net for all of us, my parents, my older sister, her husband, and me. We had made the pact one rainy evening in this very room. No one touches it without full agreement. It was meant to honor my late husband's memory and keep the family stable while I rebuilt. But the numbers hadn't added up. I stayed patient, bold enough to look, but quiet enough not to accuse until I had proof. My mother had arrived shortly after my older sister, hovering near the sliding doors that opened onto the terraced garden overlooking the valley. She didn't speak at first. She never did when my older sister took the lead. That was how it always went. My older sister pushed my mother enabled, and I was expected to absorb it without complaint. I had learned long ago that reacting only gave them more ammunition. So I sat there, hands folded in my lap, voice steady when I finally answered. I found the contract copy, I said flatly, the one that shows exactly where the money went, and I have the recordings of the three of us discussing the pact. Every word. My older sister's eyes narrowed, but she laughed, a short, sharp sound that echoed off the high ceilings. Recordings. You've always been dramatic, Lauren. This isn't some courtroom. This is family. We needed the funds to keep the villas running smoothly. Her husband's business hit a rough patch. You wouldn't understand. My mother finally stepped closer, her voice soft but edged. We didn't drain anything maliciously, sweetheart. It was just a temporary adjustment. You've been so focused on your own grief, we didn't want to burden you. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The cold detachment I had cultivated over the past year let me see everything clearly. They had betrayed the pact in secret, siphoning thousands to cover my older sister's private expenses. Expenses, I later learned, included supporting an affair that was quietly tearing her marriage apart. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who always preached loyalty had been living a double life, and my mother had helped cover it up. I stood up slowly, smoothing the front of my blouse. You came here for a loyalty test. Fine, but I've already passed mine by staying silent this long. Now it's your turn to explain to everyone why the account balance doesn't match the records. The confrontation ended there that afternoon, but the real storm was just beginning. I walked them to the door without another word, the hillside breeze carrying the faint scent of eucalyptus from the slope below. As their car disappeared down the winding private drive, I felt nothing but a quiet resolve. I'd been patient. Now it was time to let the truth do the work. Later that evening, I sat on the terrace with a glass of water reviewing the evidence I had quietly gathered. The misplaced contract copy, a single page that had slipped behind a filing cabinet in my home office, showed the unauthorized transfers signed by my older sister and approved by my mother. I had the digital recordings from family dinners where we had explicitly agreed to full transparency. But the real turning point came 2 days later when an anonymous tip landed in the community association inbox and my inbox at the same time. Someone in the hillside villas had noticed the sudden luxury purchases and late-night visitors at my older sister's place. The tip didn't name names, but it pointed straight at the financial irregularities in the family trust we had all signed on to. I forwarded it to Jordan Ellis, my best friend, and the financial advisor I had quietly brought in months earlier. Jordan had been the one steady voice in my corner, helping me trace the paper trail without tipping anyone off. This is bigger than we thought, she texted me that night. The tip mentions her husband's business too, and the affair. Word is already spreading in the villas. The secondary conflict hit fast. Reputation damage in a place like this moves like wildfire through the gated community. By the end of the week, whispers followed me at the local market and the community fitness center. People who had once smiled at family barbecues now looked away or asked careful questions about how things were holding up. I remained detached, answering only what was necessary. I wasn't interested in public drama. I was interested in the truth. My older sister called me the following Saturday, her voice tight with panic. "Lauren, you have to fix this. The tip. It's everywhere. Her husband is asking questions I can't answer. Mom is losing it. If the association starts digging into the trust, we all lose the villas." I listened without interrupting. When she finished, I said simply, "You tested my loyalty. Now the community is testing yours. I'm not signing anything. The evidence is already with my lawyer, Marcus Klein." Marcus was the sharp estate attorney who specialized in trust disputes. He had reviewed everything and confirmed the concealed draining violated the pact and could trigger financial penalties, including forced repayment and potential liens on the properties. The anonymous tip had given him the opening to file quietly with the association's oversight board. The next few weeks were a slow burn of escalating pressure. My mother tried the soft approach, first showing up at my door with a casserole and tears in her eyes. "We never meant for it to go this far. Your older sister was struggling. You know how marriages can be. We were just trying to keep the family together." I stood in the doorway, arms crossed the hillside sun warm on my back. Keeping the family together by draining the account I contributed to after my husband died, by hiding an affair, that's not family, Mom. That's using me. She left without the casserole. My older sister tried anger next, cornering me at a neutral coffee spot near the villas. Her words were laced with the same sarcasm she had always used when she wanted to cut me down. "You're really going to burn everything down over a few $1,000s. After everything we've done for you, you were always the patient one, Lauren, the one who never rocked the boat. Now look at you." I met her gaze evenly. I rocked the boat the day I started recording our conversations, the day I found the contract copy you thought was lost. The pact is on record. The draining is on record. The affair is becoming public knowledge thanks to that tip. Your reputation is the one unraveling now. She stormed out, but the damage was already spreading. Her husband filed for separation shortly after, and the hillside community, tight-knit and image-conscious, began distancing itself from my mother and my older sister. Invitations dried up, whispers turned into open conversations at neighborhood events I no longer attended. Financial penalties started rolling in the association board, demanded repayment of the unauthorized withdrawals, plus interest-threatening liens on the shared villa assets if not settled. Through it all, I stayed patient and bold in my own way. I didn't gloat. I didn't chase revenge. I simply let the evidence speak while I focused on my own life, my work as a project coordinator for a local design firm, my quiet evenings on the terrace, the slow rebuilding I had started long before the confrontation. Jordan and Marcus kept me updated on the legal side, but I made the decisions. No more silent absorption, no more loyalty tests I hadn't agreed to. The final escalation came when the last document surfaced, a second copy of the original pact agreement that had been misfiled in my mother's home safe. Marcus obtained it through legal channels during the association review. It contained handwritten notes from my older sister and my mother outlining exactly how they planned to temporarily redirect funds without telling me. The notes even referenced my older sister's personal expenses tied to her affair. That document flipped the entire narrative. What they had called a family necessity now looked like deliberate concealment and self-serving theft. The association imposed formal financial penalties, full restitution plus fines that stripped away the extra lifestyle they had funded. My mother and my older sister lost standing in the community. Their reputations were permanently damaged in the only place that had ever mattered to them. The prestigious hillside villas where image was everything. Her husband moved out for good, taking their shared villa off the market and forcing a sale that further drained their resources. I watched it unfold from a distance, cold and detached the way I had learned to be. There was no dramatic showdown in the end, no screaming match or tearful apology, just the quiet finality of paperwork and community silence. The final board decision came 48 hours later, delivered in a crisp email from Marcus that I read on my laptop in the same living room where the whole mess had begun. The association had reviewed every piece of evidence, from the recordings that exposed the pact to the misplaced contract copy, with its handwritten notes detailing exactly how my older sister and my mother had funneled funds into personal expenses tied to the affair. The ruling was unambiguous, full restitution of the drained amount plus accumulated interest, immediate financial penalties assessed against the shared trust interests, and formal liens placed on any overlapping villa assets until payment was complete. No appeals, no extensions. The community had seen enough to protect its own standards of transparency. I closed the laptop without fanfare and sat back the quiet of the villa, wrapping around me like a familiar weight I no longer needed to carry. My older sister called within the hour, her voice tight, with the same sarcastic edge she had used the day she first demanded I sign the papers. "You got what you wanted, Lauren. The board just slapped us with penalties that could force us to sell our stake in the villas. Mom is in tears. Her husband is already talking to his own lawyer about separating assets completely. This is on you." I listened to the silence on my end for a moment before replying in the same even tone I had kept through every escalation. "The penalties are the direct result of choices you both made. The pact was never optional. The concealed, draining the affair you tried to hide behind family loyalty, those were the real betrayals. Truth has a way of catching up." She let out a short, bitter laugh that carried no humor. "Truth? You mean your version of it, backed by recordings you never told us about, and that anonymous tip you probably orchestrated. You sat there so patient, so bold in your quiet way, while we trusted you. Now the whole hillside knows. Invitations are drying up. People who used to stop by for coffee are suddenly too busy. Our reputation here is permanently damaged, and you're just sitting in your villa like none of it touches you." "It doesn't," I said simply. "Not anymore." My mother tried her turn the next afternoon, showing up at my door with the same pleading expression she had worn when she first approved the unauthorized transfers. She didn't push inside this time. She stood on the threshold, hands clasped tightly. "Lauren, we're family. The financial penalties are going to wipe out what little buffer we had left after her husband moved out. Your father is beside himself. He's been calling the association chair every day trying to mediate, but they won't budge. Can't you speak to Marcus? Ask him to soften the repayment schedule at least." I met her eyes without softening. "Your father tried that route already. I spoke with him yesterday. He understands the evidence now." The last document flipped everything because it showed the intent behind the draining. You both knew what you were doing. The community board enforced the rules we all signed. I'm not intervening. She swallowed hard the sarcasm she usually reserved for these moments, absent for once. "You've always been the one who held back, who waited until the perfect moment. But this is cold even for you. We lost standing in the only place that ever felt like home. The villa's the social circle. It's all slipping away because of one loyalty test you refused to pass." "The test was never mine to pass," I answered. "It was yours to honor. The pact, the recordings, the tip that exposed the theft, and the cheating. None of it was hidden from the start. You chose the shortcuts. The irreversible loss you're feeling now is the price." She left without another word, shoulders slumped in a way I had never seen. My father called me later that evening, his voice heavy, but resigned, after a long conversation with Jordan about the full scope of the evidence. He didn't plead. He simply said he understood why I had protected the account and that the family ties had frayed beyond repair. I thanked him for the clarity and ended the call. No tears on my end, just the steady, detached calm that had carried me through the months of gathering proof. Jordan stopped by the following weekend with the final paperwork from Marcus. She set the folder on the coffee table and took a seat across from me, her expression one of quiet respect. "The liens are in place. Your older sister and your mother have 30 days to liquidate personal assets or face forced sale of their villa interests. Her husband is cooperating fully as a witness now that the affair details are public knowledge in the community. The reputation damage spread faster than we expected. The cheating karma hit them where it hurt most, in the social standing they built their whole identity around." I nodded, flipping through the pages without emotion. "It's done." The weeks after that brought the strong, silent closure I'd prepared for. There were no more visits from my older sister or my mother. No more texts filled with venom or guilt. The Hillside Villas community moved on with its usual rhythm, but the whispers lingered around their names, turning into polite distance at neighborhood events I no longer attended. My older sister's marriage ended in a quiet separation, the affair becoming the final fracture that no amount of family pressure could mend. My mother retreated into a smaller circle of acquaintances who hadn't heard the full story, her own role in the concealed draining, now a permanent stain on the image she had cultivated for decades. My father kept his distance too, choosing neutrality over reconciliation, which only underscored how deeply the toxic ties had unraveled. I watched it all from my own villa, the empowered calm settling deeper with each passing day. The partial victory was real. The pact had been upheld, the financial penalties imposed with full force, the truth exposed through the recordings, and the last document that flipped the entire narrative from family necessity to deliberate betrayal. I had chosen truth over toxic ties, and the evidence had done the rest without a single raised voice or dramatic scene. Yet the irreversible loss was just as real. The family I had once tried to hold together through patience was gone. No shared holidays, no casual calls, no illusion of loyalty left to salvage. The break was clean and permanent, a quiet severance that left me standing alone in the life I had rebuilt on my own terms. In the months that followed, I focused on the steady routines that grounded me. Work as a project coordinator kept my days full and purposeful. Jordan remained a steady presence, the one true connection that had grown stronger through the ordeal. Marcus sent occasional updates on the settled leans, but I filed them away without dwelling. The hillside breeze still carried the faint scent of eucalyptus from the slopes below on quiet evenings, but I no longer felt the weight of expectation pressing down from the family that had tested me one too many times. I sat on the terrace one evening, the valley lights beginning to flicker on below, and felt the lingering, empowered calm wash over me like a final exhale. The betrayal had been shocking in its casual cruelty. My older sister demanding I sign over access while concealing the draining to fund her double life, my mother enabling it all under the guise of family unity. The anonymous tip and the recordings had simply accelerated the karma that was always coming. But in choosing to protect the pact, I had honored my husband's memory and my own boundaries in the only way that mattered. Truth over toxic ties wasn't just a phrase. It was the line I had drawn and refused to cross. If you've ever faced a loyalty test from the people who were supposed to have your back, where the betrayal came wrapped in family duty and hidden financial moves, tell me in the comments what you would have done. Would you have stayed silent and patient, or would you have let the evidence speak for itself? Thank you for listening to my story.